Welcome to the NBA 2K G League show. I'm your host, Varun Chari, and welcome to the show. So on this video, we are going to talk about the Capital City Go-Go, and we're also going to talk about how the Washington Wizards, some of the Exhibit 10 players that they have signed, pretty much impact the direction of what this Capital City Go-Go team is for this year. Just start off straight by talking about Will Dawkins and Michael Winger, because I honestly think they are geniuses for what they have been doing this year with the team, Daniel Gafford. So if you don't know, Daniel Gafford was traded in February to the Dallas Mavericks. In exchange, they got Dallas's first round pick, which ended up being Keyshawn George. Now another thing happened where the Wizards traded Denny to the Trailblazers for the 14th pick in the draft, which was Bub Carrington, and some other draft picks. But the biggest thing about it was they also got Malcolm Brogdon. Now I know some Wizards fans aren't happy about the fact that they traded Denny away, but I think this is a different management. I think they want to go a different direction. I really do think they're trying to get as many first round picks as they possibly can. Will Dawkins, he was under Sam Presti. You know, anything about the OKC Thunder, they love their draft picks. He's trying to develop pretty much the role players that they have, that they pretty much got when, you know, they took over the Wizards, and have really been working with these guys to really showcase what else can they bring to their game. I mean, they wanted to work with Denny and Corey to show what else can they do in their game this year. And so, you know, I'm not surprised Denny got traded, but the biggest thing was them getting Brogdon. This could be a move where we could potentially see them maybe trade Brogdon. I mean, Brogdon's going into an expiring contract this year, maybe also for another first round pick to a playoff team, similar to what happened with Gafford last year. You know, when I saw they signed Jonas Valanciunas, immediately my first thought was, wow, this is going to be great mentorship for Alexander Sarr, but this is also great because they can trade him and get a first round pick. Like, it just seems like they're just being smart. They're using the money they have. They're targeting these guys who have really big market value, and they know that in December when Jonas is available for a trade, they're probably going to be able to get that first round pick. So if they're able to trade Brogdon, they're able to trade Jonas, if they're able to trade, you know, potentially Corey if he continues to develop his game, you know, maybe Saddiq Bey, if Saddiq Bey is healthy enough, you know, we could see that they continue to keep stockpiling these first round picks, or even maybe some second rounders. I also think that next year's draft, they might even draft 3 more players. I mean, that's what they did this past year, but I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted 2 guys in the first round, and they also drafted a guy maybe in the second round this time. They signed 3 players who have a decent amount of NBA experience. I mean, some of them are, you know, veterans, have played in the NBA for 4 years, but let's kind of start off with them. So Kira Lewis Jr., if you don't know anything about him, he played for the New Orleans Pelicans. I think he was drafted in 2020. He actually played about 16 to 17 minutes a game, you know, in his first season, but then I think he tore, I think it was his ACL. He had a really gruesome injury, and the biggest thing about Kira Lewis is, you know, he's a defender. I mean, he had like 0.7 steals a game in his first season in about 16.7. So if it was like per 36, that's like 1.5 steals, and he's really fast. He's speedy too. So I think with Jose Alvarado kind of emerging, kind of not really be able to break back into that backup point guard spot. You know, this past year he got traded, I think it was to the Raptors and then to the Jazz. I think this is a good move for him to try to make a comeback. I'm curious to see kind of what type of season he's going to have. I think he'll be the starting point guard. I mean, that's at least my guess as of right now. But the second player is Jalen Novell. If you don't know him, he is probably more of a scorer. Played with the Stockton Kings last year. He played actually 4 seasons with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so the biggest thing about him is he actually had opportunities where he did get called up to the NBA last year. And so, you know, he's another guy who has experience playing in the NBA, who's gotten minutes, you know, at the NBA level. And I think the third player, Leaky Black, is also a notable player. You know, he averaged 9.7 minutes per game last year, you know, with Hornets and their G League team. But I think with Leaky, there were points where he started averaging about 20, probably maybe 20, 25 minutes a game. It just keeps showing that I'm seeing this trend where they sign these 3 guys and they played a decent amount of NBA minutes. So people are aware of these players, and I think if the Go-Go have the opportunity to develop these guys into good role players, I mean, you could see them as like a diamond in the rough right now, try to develop them into guys that they could potentially be the move that maybe they're hoping that would work out for them. You know, if you're Will Dawkins, you're Michael Winger, I mean, you can trade these guys, maybe even if it's not a first round pick, maybe you get like a second round pick. I want to bring up a player, Jordan Goodwin. So Jordan Goodwin, if any of you don't know about him, he got traded in the Bradley Beal trade, but he actually started his career with the Capital City Go-Go, and then his second year, that's when he started getting his two-way contract, and then he got a multi-year contract because he started playing well with the Wizards, and then he got traded with Beal to the Suns, and he actually was playing minutes with the Phoenix Suns. He was a guy that kind of came up, you know, was a diamond in the rough. The Go-Go were able to find him and pretty much able to send him as part of a package, you know, to the Suns. What I think the Go-Go are really good at, and the staff is in the front office, is how they're able to find talent. I mean, you also look at Pat Spencer, who was one of the guys who's on a two-way contract with the Golden State Warriors, but he was a tryout player a few years ago with the Capital City Go-Go. And then he got traded to Santa Cruz later, and well, the rest is history from there. You know, that's just another example. I think they're really good at finding these guys, these diamond in the roughs, and developing them. And you also look at Chris Dunn. I mean, Chris Dunn was able to revive his career and got called up to the Jazz. And this summer, I think he signed like a 3-year, $11 million contract with the Clippers. I'm seeing a trend here with the type of players that the Go-Go have been able to sign, whether it's these former NBA players or these guys who might have been undrafted, who maybe they're seeing something in them and able to, you know, bring them in, and hopefully for the Wizards can use them and, you know, a package, or, you know, get like a first or a second round pick if they develop well enough. So yeah, I think those are some notable things about kind of a direction and, you know, some important things about these guys. I also want to talk about some front office changes. Amber Nichols, who was the general manager of the Go-Go for the past 3 seasons, actually moved to the Wizards front office this past summer. I think she's the director of player scouting maybe, but you know, props to her. I thought she was a phenomenal GM. Again, she's really good at finding talent, her and her staff, and you know, I'm just really excited for her. Now, some other notable coaching changes is that the Wizards actually promoted Alexi Ajinça to the Wizards as an assistant coach. So first of all, congrats to Alexi. I thought it was really cool seeing him at games. If you don't know him, he was actually a former player for the Pelicans, and they replaced him with Nick Friedman, who was an assistant coach with Cody Toppert at the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. Now, he was also an assistant coach when Top moved to the Northern Arizona Suns as a head coach. So I think that's pretty cool that he's bringing another person he knows on staff, and I'm just really excited to see like what he can do with the team. And now let's talk about kind of how I think the starting lineup for this team could probably look. So at point guard, I think you could be seeing Kira Lewis Jr. At shooting guard, you could see Jalen Noel. At small forward, I think Keyshawn George is probably going to be playing the Go-Go, at least for the beginning of the season, until they move some guys. At 4, I would see maybe Justin Champagnie, and at 5 would be maybe Tristan Vucevic. And then off the bench, some guys I do want to talk about. So I noticed they did a trade. They traded Eric Stevenson for Jake Stevens. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later in this video about some of who kind of is not with the team anymore and who's kind of doing new additions. But Eric Stevenson played with the Texas Legends and the Austin Spurs last year. He was with the Wizards in Summer League. He's a shooting guard, I believe, out of West Virginia. So he's, you know, now going to be on their bench. Another player that they just recently did a trade for, Mohamed Gueye. They traded Devon Dotson's rights to the Raptors 905. Mohamed Gueye was a player for the Raptors 905. He got a 10-day and then got a 2-way contract with the Raptors. I think they cut him, but then he played only 1 game for the Charlotte Hornets Summer League team, but unfortunately he did get hurt in his first game, but he was balling. Like, he was killing it. So, you know, that's how it goes, but I'm happy that, you know, he's potentially, I mean, we don't know yet. Anything's not been announced, but I think maybe there's a chance, unless it's Devon Dotson going to the Raptors, but I think he's overseas, so they wouldn't have just done that trade like that, unless maybe it's for the future. But I think Mohamed could be coming in because they did trade away Jake Stevens, so maybe that's a possibility. Another player I also think will be with the team, potentially, could be Marquise Noel. He played with the Wizards in Summer League. I haven't seen as of, today, I think today's like the 24th or 25th of September, any trades on the G League transactions website. So I don't know anything about a trade because the Raptors 905 also have his rights like they did with Mohamed Gui. I don't know if he'll get traded to the Go-Go, so we'll kind of see within this next month. But I think maybe if he does does get traded and he does end up with the Go-Go, he could be that backup point guard. Or he could be the starting point guard and, compete with Kira Lewis. So we'll kind of see what happens there. Now, moving on to some of the returning players on this team are Taylor Funk and John Butler Jr. I think, well, there's nothing confirmed about these two guys, but I do think they'll be back because both of them did play Summer League with the Wizards. They were, I think, the returning players from the Go-Go on the Wizards this year, well, not including some of the two-way guys. But, Taylor, I believe I saw on his Instagram story, was actually at a Washington Mystics game, so I do think there's a chance he could be back with the team. John Butler Jr., if you actually don't know, he was part of the 3-on-3, I think it was the American Cup tournament. I'm curious now to see if he'll be back, but I think he could be, so maybe that's like your 5, coming off the bench. Now I do want to talk about some of the players who are no longer with the team. First of all, I don't know if RJ Nembhard and Marvin Smith will be back. So we'll kind of see, but some of the guys that are no longer with the team are Jake Stevens, who actually his rights got traded to the Texas Legends for Eric Stevenson, like I was talking about earlier in this video, and then his rights, actually today I found out, got traded to the South Bay Lakers. RJ Hampton, he actually got his rights traded to the Delaware Bluecoats. So I do think the 76ers, probably within the next coming days, will probably be signing him to a training camp deal just for an Exhibit 10. He actually played for the 76ers in Summer League, so this really isn't surprising at all. And then Julius Bernard actually got traded to the Cleveland Charge. He was actually a fan favorite of the Go-Go. A lot of fans that I've talked to really liked him. So yeah, so I'm happy he's getting another opportunity somewhere else. Hamdou Diallo, I believe, signed overseas in the CBA. I don't know which Chinese team he signed with, but he's, I believe, agreed with a CBA team. So I don't believe he's going to be in the NBA anymore or G League, like in that portal anymore this year. And then Davion Mintz actually is also overseas. I don't know if he would be back with the team, so we'll kind of see. Maybe later he could rejoin. And another player, Michael Foster Jr., he played actually with G League United. If you don't know what that is, that was a team created to pretty much play kind of like what happened last year with G League Ignite, but there's no more G League Ignite. G League United was playing some exhibition games with Mega, I believe. They're a European team from overseas, but they were also kind of doing some exhibition games and then trying to play some games, I think, in a World Cup overseas. So he was the youngest player on that team, and I thought he did some things that were really well that he's been trying to improve on. And at that first and second exhibition game, there were like 50 scouts. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting traded somewhere else and a different NBA team wants to sign him. So then their organization, like the G League organization, can pretty much take him in and to see like what they can do with him. I mean, he's still really young. I mean, he was like a 5-star, I think, recruit coming out of high school, and then he signed with G League Ignite, and I think he's like 21, so he's still really young. So I think there could be an NBA player down the line in there. I think those are the guys who are now no longer with the Go-Go. We'll see about RJ. We'll see about, or RJ Nembhard. We'll see about Marvin Smith. And you don't know. There's also guys that the Go-Go have their rights that didn't play last year, but might have their rights that were traded this past year that could also come to the team. Now, in the next part of this video, I want to talk about how this roster could kind of form some of the different ways. So part of it is a draft, part of it is tryouts, You never know the talent they can get in the draft. If you don't know, Sam Morril, who plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, actually was the first pick in the 2022 G League draft. And it was a good situation because he did well enough where he eventually got a two-way and then got converted to an actual roster spot, and actually was playing a decent amount of minutes at points for the Cavaliers. So that's something to keep in mind. Tryouts, again, we talked about Pat Spencer earlier in this video. You never know who can try out for the team and end up being a good fit for the Go-Go. And then we have the affiliate players. And remember, you can only sign 4 affiliate players to your G League team. So as we're seeing these training camp deals happen, these Exhibit 10s happening, you have to keep in mind that if that player did not play in the G League this past, pretty much if they didn't play in the G League previously, if they've been, if they have not been a free agent with the G League, then they would technically be an affiliate player. So Kira Lewis has not technically played in the G League as a free agent, so he will be an affiliate player because he doesn't have any G League rights, for him. Even the same case with Leaky Black. Jalen Nobel, you have to trade for returning rights. So when they did the Julius Bernard trade, they actually were able to trade the Stockton Kings to be able to get back Jalen Nobel's rights from the Stockton Kings. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which I think is really interesting to kind of go back to the Wizards and the Go-Go, is the last two-way spot. There's speculation about what's kind of going on there. I have a few theories that could happen. So my first theory is I think they could be leaving that spot for Jared Butler. Right now, the Wizards are at 16 players. They're at 15 guaranteed, 1 non-guaranteed, which is Jared Butler. I'm really high on Jared, quite honestly. I think he's a guy you want to keep in your franchise. Kind of like that Udonis Haslem, maybe like Anthony Go. I do think he is a player that could also be really good for the young guys. And I think he's gone through some really big adversity in his life. If you don't know, you should read about him. I think he had a heart condition, and just about how he's talked about in interviews and like how he's kind of navigated that process. It's really nice to see how he's able to be open about his adversities and that he's navigated in his life. And I think something like that, I think could also be important as a veteran, and I think I could see him being that type of player in his career. So that being said, I think, and I don't think this is ideal for him or his agent, we sign him and put him on a two-way contract, the last spot. But then maybe when they, let go or trade Jonas Valanciunas or some of the other guys on the roster, then hopefully they're able to re-sign him and hopefully maybe for more of a guaranteed deal. But we'll kind of see what happens there. Some Wizards reporters are thinking maybe they'll cut Patrick Baldwin Jr., potentially Anthony Gill, or maybe even Johnny Davis. So we'll kind of see what happens there if they're able to trade one of those guys. But I don't know if they can trade Gill. I'm not too sure because he signed just this recently in the summer. But Baldwin Jr., Johnny Davis, maybe one of those two could get traded. But I don't know if they have a lot of value on the market, so not too sure if they'll be getting traded or not, but we'll kind of see. Another option to that two-way spot is they could keep it open and see who gets cut, after all the training camps, with all the other NBA teams, and then sign one of those guys to that last spot. The Wizards are going through a rebuild. They're not afraid to go and look for guys that are diamonds in the rough, and quite honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they go after a guy from another NBA team who gets cut off his two-way and try to develop him like they kind of have. That's kind of what they did with Justin. They signed him outside of Wizards. He was with the Heat's G League team this past year, and then they brought him in around February on a two-way. And for that last two-way spot, I think one option could be signing Taylor Funk. Now, Taylor Funk had a really good summer league. He had, I think, 30 points in his last summer league game. He's a guy who traded from the Maine Celtics in December. I kind of think, like we've been talking about, Julius Bernard not getting a contract till his second year with the Go-Go, Jordan Goodwin, Taylor, I think could follow that trend, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe later this year, maybe if they do have Jared on that two-way and they move him to a regular roster spot, maybe Taylor Funk does get that two-way spot from Jared, and kind of like we've been talking about, they follow this trend of these second-year players getting that two-way spot. So I'd be curious to see what happens there. That's like one option too. But I think this is gonna wrap it up for this video. I've told myself this video is gonna hopefully be 10 minutes. I think it's over 25. But you know, I'm just really happy to be able to talk some hoops. You know, the NBA season's getting ready to start, but especially the G League. I want to do more of these videos where I kind of cover other G League teams as well. I think the main Celtics this year, man, that roster is gonna be stacked. Also, like Osceola Magic, that team is gonna be really good, I think too. So we'll kind of see what happens this year to G League. But if you have any thoughts about anything I said in this video, feel free to comment below. But as always, feel free to subscribe, like, or dislike, because hey, you do you. So, this is the NBA 2K G League show. I'm your host, Varun Charya, and thank you for watching. Peace.